If any of us watch TV, we know who this grifter is, and when she hit the scene, and who was responsible for her demise. A fallen star or a downright grifter who wanted more from her opportunity because she wasn't going to be ignored is more likely. It's more like it. Eryka Jayne, the grift is real. What we have learned about this woman who came to Los Angeles in the middle of a Great Recession and began first working as a dancer before nabbing possibly already embroiled attorney Tom Girardi. Eryka, the grift. Eryka Jayne was spotted buying clothes at a discount department store amidst her legal battles. It looks like even celebrities like to save a little money here and there, but the public isn't buying it. We first see Eryka in a club in the Valley dressed in a nightie and black shoes, long blonde hair, and she comes off as quiet and determined. An odd combination for a girl with all the right tools, because we know that Hollywood is cutthroat, and she has been around the block a time or two. She appears to be a mother, but we never hear about her son. She talks mostly to the waitress, but she is consistent and reliable, especially at 11 o'clock in the morning. Cue Incubus. No, really. In a twist of fate, she becomes a regular on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I'm watching. Instinct would have it that the girl came to LA from the East Coast, right? Yeah, the world changes for the better or for the worse because it's pre 9/11 in 1990s, right? After that whole entire mess, what were they doing at the time? Who was this broad for, Who was this broad fooling? I'm watching, she dances the same song every day, over and over, every time. Deborah Cox. And it's cute. She's playing damsel in distress. Good one, right? At the time, the hardness of the 90s was still a reality. Murderers were still abound at the club, and when it came to the new blood, it was a given. The tables were turning and being set in motion for what? Is she an ex-con? Can you buy an expungement of your record, and can people really have that type of money? Never mind influence, right? The show gives us an insight of the relationship dynamics of a woman who has been raised to claw her way up, and her mother says on the show that Eryka is a tough old bird. Eryka flaunts hardness, but in the scene where Tom tells her, "Excuse me, Eryka, I'm talking," we are left dumbfounded, perplexed at her level of dysfunction and lack of respect by her man, Tom Girardi. He is faculty-wise all there. Eventually, we learn that Eryka has embarked on friendship with Mikey Minden and liaison of the Pussycat Dolls, with a 40 grand a month allowance for her glam squad that includes wardrobe and hair maintenance. This chick is wild. How is she paying for that? And I mean, we are getting highly Fleiss vibes because it's all interconnected, especially here on the ground in Hollywood. So the husband is now claiming dementia. Uh-oh. Time for a dig into this mess for real. Excuse me. Mikey Minden is a choreographer and the creative director for the Pussycat Dolls, and a guy I know to be the same one who stalked our stage as the prototype precursor of the act he catapulted to stardom along with Robin Anton, their founder. I know, right? Uh-oh. He was running her now and was getting ready to pull the wool over her eyes. This is gonna be epic. What do the feds know? Tom was in demand for the last 20 years. If we put her in with Tom in late 90s and Mikey Minden at Mike Wood's club and connect the dots, we can see that it looks like a grift, and an undeniable one. The victims: lottery winners, burn victims, crash victims, and orphans and widows. We saw her coming. We saw her because every week we got scores of women trying to enter the contest, collect their cash flow, and go home. And go on home when they weren't picked up for the roster. And the game was set for a blonde with blue eyes because that was our staple. Our boss didn't allow certain types of people in, as it were. So this homegirl came in coached and steady and featured with extra nice sprinkled on top. The blonde girl meant we had to be nice to her. Not a peep from her, and I'm the welcome wagon, but prejudice abounds. And as they say, this is not my first gig. She was one of us suddenly, and came and went just like the rest of us, and we watched her and hoped she would just be something more, because seriously, what was a girl like her doing in a place like this? So I watched her change, become arrogant, lose her cool, etc. She was unraveling, and it wasn't even exactly ladylike. Where did she learn that? Because it wasn't at the ball. We taught people camaraderie. She wasn't playing nice. Then the season started with a bang. She was scrambling for material on the show, becoming phonier than ever. And then we saw her offshore with an entourage, which totally gave me the idea that this chick was being watched by the feds, since her casting on the show. And we then can begin to salivate at what we clearly see as a house of cards. Cut to the tall blonde at the house building where she tells Eryka off. Ooh, Catherine. Victims are orphans and widows. The Rio Gomez family will be compensated. We see her coming out of her shell, finding some unkind words finally, but the eagerness to remind us how rich she is fails to convince us that it's blessings. When she shows us a chapel she prays in that makes the viewer cringe at the thought to what we may be witnessing. It is good enough to watch what happens next season. It finally breaks when Eryka files for divorce and the whole cast is caught off guard. So the evolution is key, and she went from this to this. Aaron Brockovich, eat your heart out. Tom Girardi will plead the fifth and has been referred for disbarment and is known to have been full faculties as recent as less than a year ago. He is a tort attorney and considered one of the best in the country. Will the scales of justice prevail? The case of the Rio Gomez family is priority, and he is the burn victim. Eryka first claims Tom was unfaithful when Yolanda told her boys will be boys. The cast has been vocal. They are not being considered, and she is evasive with them about sharing. We know she owes a lot of money, and Uncle Sam always gets his cut. Ronald Richard, attorney at law, the actual hero in the case, and debacle of the downfall of Eryka Jayne with a K. People get ready. We are here.